If you clicked on this video, then congratulations. This means that you have an interview coming up. And this is something that you should definitely celebrate and be proud of because it's a super competitive job market right now. So this also tells you that your resume is in a pretty good spot right now. And so I wouldn't spend any more time editing the resume, and you should instead focus your time on acing this upcoming interview so you can actually get this job offer. So in this video, I'm going to give you 5 critical steps that you need to follow if you want to prepare and ace your upcoming interview. And the first step is that you actually need to analyze the job description for the job posting that you are going to be interviewing for. You can even use ChatGPT or Google Gemini to help you figure out what are the keywords that you need to have in your interview answers, the keywords that the recruiter or hiring manager is going to be looking for, the key skills that you need to demonstrate in your answers, and you can even use ChatGPT or Google Gemini to predict future interview questions that you'll get based on the job description. All you have to do is take the job description online. You can copy the whole text if you want, or you can even just copy the URL at the top. Then open up Google Gemini or ChatGPT, paste it in there, and ask it to analyze the job description and tell you what are the specific keywords and hard skills or technical skills that you need to know before your upcoming interview. Pro tip, when you're analyzing the job description yourself, don't focus on any of the soft skills like hardworking, ambitious, detail-oriented. These are all natural skills that they're going to test through the interview itself. Just because if you have to pass an interview, you have to be organized, you have to be confident, you have to be a hard worker. So don't worry about demonstrating or saying these skills in the interview itself because it's going to be apparent. Instead, you should be practicing all of the different keywords that these recruiters and hiring managers are going to be looking for. So you should be looking at all of the technical skills or keywords or technologies or tools that you actually need to know as it relates to your job. The second step is you're going to want to do some research on who you're talking to because it's going to give you a good sense of what kind of interview questions and topics you can expect. All you need is their first name and last name, so you can ask your recruiter to tell you exactly who you're meeting with, and sometimes the recruiter will even give you their LinkedIn profile themselves if you can't find it, because some people don't want to be found on LinkedIn because they may only have their last initial or something like that, or you can just try to find them yourself using LinkedIn or Google search. The reason why you want to look up who you're interviewing with is because it's going to tell you, based on their background and their job description and what they're doing today, what kind of questions and topics you can expect in your upcoming interview, and those are the ones you're going to want to prioritize and practice. For example, if you know you're going to interview with the recruiter for the role, you should check if they actually have done your job in the past. Otherwise, that means they don't really know anything about your job if they haven't done it themselves, which means they won't be able to truly test your technical capabilities for the role itself, which most likely means they're going to be asking a lot of behavioral questions, and they're just going to be listening for certain keywords to make sure that you meet the minimum qualifications for the role so they can feel comfortable putting your resume in front of the actual hiring manager. And this also means if you're talking to a recruiter or someone without the technical background related to your role, you don't want to use a lot of jargon or keywords that are not in the job description itself, because you may think you're describing things that are similar or mean the same thing as what's in the job description or what the recruiter is looking for. But because the recruiter doesn't have a technical background, they won't actually know that the words you're saying are still relevant and synonymous to the keywords that they're looking for. So you should be kind of dumbing things down in a way when you're talking to the recruiter to make sure that they understand that you actually do what's required for the role. Alternatively, if you realize your interviewer is in a different department from you, this most likely means you're going to have questions focused on cross-functional collaboration. So you're going to want to focus and practice the questions that I have up on screen right now. It's also going to mean that this interviewer is going to be testing your breadth of knowledge, not just your depth of knowledge in your particular area. So they're going to be testing and asking you questions about upstream and downstream dependencies from your work, or maybe even some process questions, because if they're not in the same department than you, then it most likely means that whatever you're doing in this job is going to be affecting their jobs. So they're going to want to know, are you easy to work with? How are you going to impact or improve their quality of life and their role? Also, if you work in a multidisciplinary type of role like product management, where you need to know many different skills like marketing, product management, engineering, and project management, you also want to see if your interviewer has a specific skill set as it relates to one of those different disciplines. If you know that your interviewer has a marketing background, then you can basically assume that all of their questions are going to be focused on the product marketing side, or the go-to-market strategy, or the sales interactions that you're going to have as it relates to the product itself. But of course, don't be afraid to leverage your recruiter and ask them who you're meeting with and what specific topics you can expect in that interview. They're not going to give you the exact questions that you're going to be asked, but they will most likely give you a huge hint as to what kind of topics and what kind of questions you can expect. You can even ask if there are going to be some behavioral, hypothetical, or some culture-based questions as a part of that interview as well. Because remember, recruiters are paid based on how many people they hire in a year. So they are motivated and incentivized to help their candidates succeed. Okay, after you've analyzed the job description and you've researched your interviewer, the next step is to actually practice your stories that you're going to be telling in that interview itself. As a general guideline, I would say that every single bullet point that is on your resume, you need to have a star story memorized for that specific bullet point. Because if the recruiter or the hiring manager picks up your resume in the interview and says, hey, I really like this bullet where you said you were able to accomplish X, Y, and Z on your resume, how did you do that? Or tell me about that. You want to make sure that you actually have a story behind it. And the best way to tell a story in an interview is to use the STAR interview method. Now, I have a whole video explaining how to use the STAR method and what it means, but you can see on the screen here, it basically means give them a description of the situation, then talk about the tasks that you had to accomplish in order to solve a problem, then talk about the actions that you took to solve that problem or achieve a specific result. The actions are going to where you're going to spend the majority of your time talking because you're going to highlight all of your technical skills or all the things that you've done in order to achieve something, which will show them that you're good at your job. And then you're going to talk about the result or the ending or the impact of your work overall. Each of your STAR stories should be at least 3 minutes long, but no more than 5 minutes. Now, of course, based on steps 1 and 2, you're going to get a really good sense of what stories you actually need to practice before this upcoming interview. So make sure you prioritize those. But as a general rule of thumb, I am just telling you, whatever you wrote on your resume, you need to be able to talk about in an interview. Now, they're probably not going to ask you anything that goes back farther than 5 or 8 years. So if you've been working for a long time, don't worry about creating stories for every single thing that you've done in your entire work history. You want to prioritize the most relevant and recent projects that you've done. All right, so the next step is you're gonna wanna do some research on the company itself. And now, when I mean research on the company, you need to know what products or services they actually build and sell. You're gonna wanna know who their competitors are. You're gonna wanna know if there's any recent important news about this company, and you need to make sure you know what their mission, values, or leadership principles are about this company. Obviously, you need to know what this company does and how they make money before you go to an interview, especially if you're in a sales or customer-facing or product management style role, because there are going to be tons of questions about how this company can improve, what new products they should be making, how they can make more money or save costs. And the only way you can answer those questions is if you actually know what this product does. Now, if you work in any strategy or product management type roles, you actually need to know who their competitors are, because you're going to need to know that information in order to give good answers when they're asking you about the competitive landscape, or if they're asking you what are some of the key trends in the industry. The only way you'll know that is if you've actually researched who their main competitors are. If you don't know this because you've never heard of this company before, you can simply go in on Google, type in your company name, and then type in competitors. And then it should give you an overall list of what companies sell similar products or sell similar services. Now, for company news, you really are only looking for some major headlines about this company. So see if they have a recent earnings report, see if they have any big acquisitions or mergers in the way, or see if they've done any layoffs. Anything outside of these 3 main categories, I wouldn't say are that important that you need to know for an interview. And the last piece of research you need to do about this company is knowing the values and the mission statement or the leadership principles of this company, because you're going to use that information in order to better answer any behavioral or culture fit questions that they give you. The number one company that I always use as an example is Amazon. So if you look on their website, they have leadership principles explained in depth, and you basically can use these to answer any questions like describe your managerial style or describe your ideal work environment and work culture. You basically just want to tell them that whatever their principles or their values are is exactly what you need to succeed, because then they're going to realize you're a perfect fit to work at their company. All right, the next step that you need in order to prepare an HR interview is you're going to need to get your notes ready. Now, I do not mean that you should have an entire notepad this big ready for your interviews. In fact, you shouldn't have this because it's going to make cheating super obvious, and they're definitely going to catch you, especially if you're in person, but even so when you're on a Zoom call. I've seen all these AI apps that overlay over your screen, and I've also seen people have dual monitors up so they can look at their notes on one screen and then go back and look at the camera. I will just tell you that people have been doing Zoom and video interviews now for the last 4 years. And as a recruiter, I can tell you, it is so obvious when you are reading something. Number one, we can see where your eyes are moving. Number two, if it's not your answer and it sounds like really monotone, it doesn't seem like you know what you're talking about, there's no confidence in your delivery, we can tell you're just reading something off of an AI script. And so it's always better to just do the work and practice and get ready to prepare. So when you have your notes ready, don't have something like this. All you're allowed to have is a Post-it note. What you're gonna do is you're gonna take this Post-it note, you're gonna put it right underneath your camera up on your screen, so every time you're looking at it, it still looks like you're looking at the camera. It's not wide enough for your eyes to actually move left and right, so they won't know if you're actually reading anything. But you may be thinking, well, what am I gonna put on a Post-it note that's gonna be even worth helping me in an interview? So for me, on my Post-it note and my cheat sheet, I put on the top 5 stories that I think I'm gonna use in this particular interview, and I'm gonna put down some interview answer structures, like the STAR method as a quick reminder, and I'm also gonna put on there how to answer hypothetical questions and that type of format. Okay, next, you're gonna wanna make sure that you have questions ready that you're gonna ask your interviewer at the end of the interview. If you don't know what are some good questions to ask, I have a whole video that you can watch right here, but you can even just copy some of the questions that I have up on the screen right now. Because the last thing you wanna do is, when it comes to the end of the interview and they say, do you have any questions for me? You never wanna say, nope, I have no questions, I got all the information that I need. Because it's gonna show them that you aren't interested in actually working at that company, and they're not one of your top choices, and therefore they shouldn't waste their time inviting you to do more interviews. So those are the key steps that you need to follow if you want to ace your upcoming interview. But if you think I missed anything or you have any cool tips and tricks, put those down in the comments and I will pin those so that we can help out the whole community. Thank you all for watching, and don't be afraid to shake things up.